Mr. Secretary, you can change the name of the operation. It doesn't change the fact that the strait is still closed and my service members and all of our service members are still in harm's way. The war is not over. But I'm agreeing with you. Okay, fine. We're taking you at your word. The war is over. Who won? We have lost 14 brave American service members. Over 400 are injured. And the Iranian regime remains largely intact, but now with a more hardline leader who has more incentive to try and get a nuclear weapon. So I guess I have to ask you again, Mr. Secretary, does this actually look like winning or losing to you? The American people are not stupid, Mr. Secretary. We all know that this war is not over. Just last night, the U.S. and Iran exchanged fire again, this time over Karg Island. We still have not reached a deal, despite the president's promise that a deal is right around the corner. The president even said today the blockade could last until Labor Day. It's now day 97 of the war that the president said he wanted to end quickly.
Congresswoman Sara Jacobs of California was not questioning a rumor. She sits on the House Foreign Affairs Committee. She also sits on the Armed Services Committee. Her district includes San Diego, military families, Marines, people who carry the cost when Washington gets a war wrong. The day before this hearing, Secretary of State Marco Rubio told the Senate that the war in Iran was over. Jacobs came to the record with a specific inventory: 2,500 constituents deployed near Iran, families facing 48-hour deployment notices, the Strait of Hormuz still closed, 14 American service members dead, more than 400 injured. She did not begin with Donald Trump. She did not begin with a speech. She began with the administration's own claim. If the war is over, who won? Watch what Rubio said.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, good to see you. I'd like to talk about the war in Iran. Yesterday, in your Senate testimony, you told Senator Booker that the war in Iran is over. This is news to me. It's also news to my 2,500 constituents, Marines, San Diego Marines in the Middle East off the coast of Iran, the other of my constituents who are deployed there, and the thousands more of my constituents who have 48-hour deployment notices whose families are still very concerned. But okay, I will take you at your word. If the war is over, I have a simple question. Who won?
First of all, epic fury is over, which is what you would consider the war. That operation is
So you
concluded.
agree it's a war, then?
No, those are hostilities. They called it a war. Okay. I'm just responding to the Senator
Mr. Secretary, you can change the name of the operation. It doesn't change the fact that the strait is still closed and my service members and all of our service members are still in harm's way. The war is not over. But I'm agreeing with you. Okay, fine. We're taking you at your word. The war is over. Who won?
Well, first of all, you're not taking me at my word. It's a fact. We're no longer conducting sustained strikes inside of Iran to degrade their military because epic fury is over. The second point is on the question of who won, I can tell you this. We defined victory as destroying their defense industrial base, significantly reducing the number of missile launchers that they possess, significantly reducing their stockpile of drones. And we achieved all of those in addition to destroying what they had left of an air force and wiping out their entire conventional navy. Those are all gone. So I consider that victory, and we did too, and that was the purpose of epic fury.
Okay, well, good. Based on the metrics that you just said, okay, there's actually, our intelligence community has said that Iran is reconstituting its military industrial base faster than we had predicted, and analysts assess it still holds roughly 70% of its missile stockpile and 70% of its mobile launchers. The Strait of Hormuz was open before the war. It is now closed. We have lost 14 brave American service members, over 400 are injured, and the Iranian regime remains largely intact, but now with a more hardline leader who has more incentive to try and get a nuclear weapon. So I guess I have to ask you again, Mr. Secretary, does this actually look like winning or losing to you?
Well, first of all, I don't know what intelligence assessments you're referring to. We wouldn't discuss intelligence assessments if they were real.
These have been publicly reported.
Well, they're publicly reported. Someone committed a crime, and by the way, is also lying. And this happens all the time. People manipulate intelligence and analysis for purposes of furthering a narrative. On your point about the regime is actually deeply fractured, which is why it takes 7 to 10 days to get an answer from them for anything. Meanwhile, they
fractured, but still intact.
Well, intact in the sense they can't even reach agreements that they can get back to us. So I don't know how intact that is. What they have is people that are afraid to go into the streets. Their repressive operations have held people back, in addition to the fact they've cut off the internet. But this is a country right now in this regime that is facing hyperinflation, a completely devalued currency, hundreds of billions of dollars in damage to their military infrastructure. And frankly, they all of the pre-existing problems that Iran had in their economy, which is why people were protesting, are worse. not better.
Sure,
and
but
they have to deal with that too.
Mr. Secretary, so you're saying we're winning because the Iranian economy has inflation, it's cost them millions of dollars a day in lost revenue, and because it's going to cost them billions of dollars to rebuild. Well, we are having inflation. It's already cost us an estimated $100 billion. Gas prices are up with no end in sight. The average family is paying an extra $450 on gas and could pay an extra $2,000 by the end of the year. The American people are not stupid, Mr. Secretary. We all know that this war is not over. Just last night, the U.S. and Iran exchanged fire again, this time over Karg Island. We still have not reached a deal, despite the president's promise that a deal is right around the corner. The president even said today the blockade could last until Labor Day. It's now day 97 of the war that the president said he wanted to end quickly. So I have one last question for you. Mr. Secretary, who won the 2020 presidential election?
I'm not here to answer a question. We're talking about 2020. This is a Foreign Affairs Committee.
Okay, great. You can't answer the question, even though we all know that President Biden won.
I don't answer the question because the Secretary of State, I do not participate in domestic political issues.
This is not about domestic political issues. This is about our democracy.
You're asking me to opine, just like I don't do campaign rallies.
It seems like
I don't do because as Secretary of State, we're not supposed to. That's been the long tradition of the department, and you should know that if you've been on this committee for any period of time.
Mr. Secretary, it seems like you have an issue admitting facts. You can't say that the president lost the 2020 election, just like you won't admit President Trump is losing this reckless war of choice, and just like you couldn't admit that the shoes the president bought you were too big. You clearly don't know what winning means, and not because the facts are unclear to you, it's because telling the truth would cost you your job. And the American people are entitled to a Secretary of State who tells them the truth even when the president doesn't want to hear it. And my constituents, our service members, deserve better. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Secretary Rubio said Operation Epic Fury was over. He said victory meant degrading Iran's defense industrial base, reducing missile launchers, reducing drones, and destroying what remained of Iran's conventional air force and navy. That was his definition. Then Representative Sara Jacobs tested that definition against the record. She cited American personnel still deployed. She cited the Strait of Hormuz still closed. She said 14 American service members had been killed and more than 400 had been injured. She cited reports that, according to intelligence assessments she referenced, Iran still retained roughly 70% of its missile stockpile and mobile launchers. Those were not rhetorical flourishes. They were the terms of the dispute. Rubio did not provide a competing accounting of the missile stockpile. He challenged the reports themselves. He said publicly reported intelligence had been manipulated. Then he shifted the answer toward Iran's internal condition: inflation, currency collapse, military damage, and a fractured regime. But that did not resolve the question Jacobs put on the record, because economic pain inside Iran is not the same thing as a verified strategic outcome for the United States. A government can end sustained strikes. It can declare an operation complete. It can define victory narrowly, but the public record still has to answer harder questions. Did the threat diminish? Did American troops become safer? Did the shipping route reopen? Did the stated military objectives hold after the bombing stopped? And what did the country receive in return for the cost? That cost is not abstract. For a service member's family, it is a phone that may ring with a deployment order. It is childcare rearranged overnight. It is a spouse watching headlines from thousands of miles away. For everyone else, it can become fuel prices, shipping costs, uncertainty at work, and another foreign conflict measured in months after officials said it was ending. Then Jacobs asked about the 2020 election. That was not a detour. It was a credibility test. Her argument was simple. When a public official refuses to state a settled fact because it is politically inconvenient, the public has reason to examine every unsettled claim with greater scrutiny. The hearing produced no shared definition of victory, no public accounting of the final military balance, no agreement on whether the conflict had actually ended. It produced something else, a permanent record of an administration claiming success and a member of Congress asking for the evidence. In a democracy, victory is not what officials call it. Victory is what the record can prove.